Connecting to APIs with Pickaxe AI and Make.com is easy as
ABC, easy as 1, 2, 3.
To speak plainly, an API is the messenger that takes requests and tells the system what you want to do, and then returns the response back to you. To give you a familiar example, think of an API as a waiter in a restaurant. Imagine you're sitting at the table with a menu of choices to order from, and the kitchen is the part of the system which will prepare your order. What's missing is the critical link to communicate your order to the kitchen and deliver your food back to your table. That's where the waiter or API comes in. The waiter is the messenger that takes your request or order and tells the system, in this case the kitchen, what to do, and then delivers the response back to you, in this case, food. Now that we've whetted your appetite, let's apply this to a real API example. You are probably familiar with the process of searching for airline flights online. Just like at a restaurant, you have a menu of options to choose from. A drop-down menu in this case. You choose a departure city and date, a return city and date, cabin class, and other variables. In order to book your flight, you interact with the airline's website to access the airline's database to see if any seats are available on those dates and what the cost might be based on certain variables. But what if you're not using the airline's website, which has direct access to the information? What if you're using an online travel service that aggregates information from many different airlines? The travel service interacts with the airline's API. The API, the interface that, like your helpful waiter, can be asked by that online travel service to get information from the airline system over the internet, to book seats, choose meal preferences, or package options. It also then takes the airline's response to your request and delivers it right back to the online travel service, which then shows it to you. Now you can see that it's APIs that make it possible for us all to use travel sites. The same goes for all interactions between applications, data, and devices. They all have APIs that allow computers to operate them, and that's what ultimately creates connectivity. So whenever you think of an API, just think of it as your waiter running back and forth between applications, databases, and devices to deliver data and create the connectivity that puts the world at our fingertips. And whenever you think of creating an API, think of Pickaxe AI and Make.com as your superheroes to save the day. Now, I want to show you the two superheroes at work. You will learn how custom and responsive webhooks work in Make.com. The key behind responsive webhooks is that when a request is made to a custom webhook module, a response can be sent back to the Pickaxe that made the request. This can be achieved using the webhook response module in Make.com. As you can see in this scenario, I have a custom webhook module, which is listening for data on a webhook that I've already created. In order for this webhook to be able to send data back to the source that makes a request, I need to attach a response webhook module to it. Just like that. As you can see, the only editable field in this module is the body. The body is what we will be sent as a response to the webhook request. What you have to do first is send some data to your webhook to determine the data structure. Click on Redetermine Data Structure so the webhook can start listening for new data. Here in Postman, I'll paste the webhook I created in this field and then enter some key value pairs that represent the data I would like to send. Then, I'll switch the request type to post in order to make a post request. Let's click Send to make the request. Let's go back to the webhook module in order to make sure that the data structure has been determined. As you can see, it was successfully determined. Next, let's open the response module in order to edit the body field. Here, you can create a string that has some elements mapped to the data received from the webhook. Let's say, "Hi, first, name. I heard that your favorite band is band name." That's awesome. Now, let's save the scenario and execute it once. Let's go back to Postman and make the same post request once again. As you can see, the response is now sent back and it includes the data that was sent with the request I made. So to recap, the webhook response module can be used to send data back to the originating source that made a request to a webhook. Mappable elements from a webhook module can be used to create a response that contains data that the originating source has sent. And that's how make.com can be used to send information to Pickaxe once the API action is set up. Now I will show you how to set up an API action in Pickaxe. Today we're diving into how to set up a webhook for our Pickaxe API action. Let's get started by clicking into Pickaxe API Action Chatbot. First, we'll go ahead and enter the address of the webhook. Once that's done, the chatbot will analyze the webhook and prompt us with an additional question. It asks us to identify the type of request this API expects. Is it a GET request or a POST request? In this case, we'll select POST, as we need to send information to our API. Next, let's move on to the headers. We need to determine if specific headers are required for this API. The answer here is no. For the make webhook, we won't be using any headers. Now, let's discuss the data we'll be sending with our API request. For POST requests, so, do we need to send any data for this API request? Yes, we do. We'll need to define the keys. For this demo, the first key is topic, which represents the subject we want to cover. Next is voice, indicating the style of the speaker. Lastly, we have length, which specifies the number of words. For example, let's say our topic is saving the whales. The voice could be nature activist, and the length is 200 words. This example looks perfect. Now that we've set up our data structure, it's time to activate our webhook. We'll head over to Make and run it once to ensure it's listening for incoming requests. We're going to generate an article on the topic Saving the Whales, using a nature writer's voice and a length of 200 words. Let's initiate that process. Sometimes it does not work right away. Let's try running it again and see if we can get a successful response this time. We've successfully generated our Pickaxe action function. We just sent a post request over to make.com automation, and guess what? The values have been received by our custom webhook. The response webhook sent back the classic, "Hello world." That's right, the very text I set up to confirm everything is working smoothly. Now, it's time to take things up a notch. We need to connect our Pickaxe API action to a Pickaxe chatbot. I've created a special chatbot just for this demo, and all I need to do is grab its address to plug it in here. And we're all set. Let's put our creation to the test with the Pickaxe chatbot. We just linked to our action. Drumroll, please, it works like a charm. So there you have it. Our creation is live and ready to go. Now it's your turn. Go ahead and create your own amazing integrations star.